And then she was like, what is Ki Hajar Dewantara? She said, what is Ki Hajar Dewantara? He's the, apa bilangnya ya? He's the, not founding father per se, but like he's the education icon.
Pioneer.
Of this country. Yeah. The whole Tuturi Handayani was his. Okay. We have this education philosophy.
Okay.
Which is the basis for Minister of Education, like the rest of like educators in the country basically. So he's like the main guy.
Right.
He's the OG. He's the OG of education in this country. And yeah, the intern was like, what is Ki Hajar Dewantara? It's okay. We forgave her. She learns. Yeah.
Oh, forgive me too, because I also just found out.
Okay, I think we need to work on this. I think
I
this
really
international
do.
curriculum needs some basic knowledge on like Indonesian history.
Good, because you also went to an international school, so did they teach you?
No, but I went to SD SMP-nya kan Indonesia.
Oh, negeri or swasta?
Negeri.
Oh, that's why.
No, but even for the public schools, they don't. I mean, history. I mean, I guess like we need to talk about this at some point. But the way they teach history and civic education also is not as at the level that we'd like it to be, right?
Yeah, it's not complete. It's not complete, but at the very least, like they'll teach you about fucking Sriwijaya. I was telling, because the cameras are rolling right now. I was telling Afu about how I learned about Sriwijaya and Majapahit from like a follower in the DMs. No, because like just didn't teach us any of this shit, girl. Like who were you saying just now?
Ki Hajar Dewantara.
Yeah, I'm like, who the fuck is that?
Oh my God.
But at least I didn't say what.
Yeah.
But at least I didn't say what.
Right.
But also, I didn't know where Gorontalo was.
Yes. Yeah. No, but it's okay as long. I mean, I think information is out there. I think it's more important right now that you have the. I mean, to put this into a positive spin is that as long as they teach you how to process information, you can find out what the information is.
Yeah.
It's like now it's kind of different that way.
Yeah, or just at least like equip you with, I guess, like resources in order for you to be able to hopefully like look up information yourself.
Exactly. Because the flip side of that is you know a lot of things, but then you don't know how to think. You can know a bunch of information because there's content, then there's container, right? And when the education system prepares your container, you can navigate information or like content on your own. You can look it up very easily. ChatGPT will tell you whatever.
Yeah.
But then when you focus on content, which is the mistake of our past curriculum as well, and you don't train your container, that's when like you struggle with misinformation and you don't have critical thinking and whatnot.
Yeah, which ties a lot with the topic of today's conversation.
Yes.
Which is, I wanted to start it off with like, how many weeks has it been since Peringatan Darurat?
Oh my.
Like 2 weeks, like 3?
Yeah.
No, 3.
Felt like a lifetime ago though.
Oh, not for me. Not for maybe
Does
for
it still feel? Yeah.
Did you go to the protest?
Yeah.
Girl, swear to God, I wanted to go. But everybody kept telling me, like, sit your Chinese ass down. Like, if anything goes wrong, like, you're the first to go. So that's why I didn't go. I was like, I'm not about to fuck around and find out.
Yeah. I waited to... So, first of all, there's the one in the Parliament building, and then there's another one in front of the palace.
Yeah.
Right? I waited. So, in the morning, I couldn't go because I had a commitment. In the afternoon, when I wanted to go, they're saying that it escalated and there's, like, potential violence. And that's why I didn't go. And then I realized in the afternoon, they had the one in front of the palace, which is a lot. It's more... of like a somber, it's almost like a grieving together kind of setup, very different from the angry. So I think my point was, I think you choose your
Location
and timing.
Oh, okay.
I think most protests could be safe. There are like more like peaceful demonstration as well, and you can always leave whenever it escalated. But yeah, anyway, this is tip for the next.
Yeah.
The next one.
Yeah, no, because I remember like Peringatan Darurat, like y'all should know, like Mama didn't raise no bitch. Like I'm very hard to make me cry. It's really hard to make me cry, and I don't often cry. That day, I remember I was nearly in tears. I know you cried.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In front of the fucking palace.
Yeah, in front of the fucking palace. It just felt so. I mean, you're amidst, I guess, like maybe 100 or maybe a few hundreds of people, right?
Yeah.
Gathering there, and everybody cared so much about the country. I can feel like they care and they love this country. And then there's just a few bad people, right, trying to do their little game and get away with it.
Yeah.
And just the sheer hopelessness, but also injustice. Like it's not. But I don't know why I wasn't feeling anger per se. Like I guess I was past anger. It was more like, why does it have to come to, like, why are we here? What got us here? Because we thought that he was the hope. He was the change. He was one of us. He was like coming from the bottom and all of that.
Yeah, man of the people.
Man of the people.
Yeah.
and just like there's a bunch of us who cared so deeply, but it felt like we couldn't really do anything because I guess we won that one particular decision, but in the bigger scheme of things, we kind of like we're losing democracy.
Yeah. And democracy's been sliding for a very long time. I think that's not like new information. I remember I texted you that day, right? And I was like I think we were supposed to film before that happened, right?
Yeah.
And I'm actually glad that got postponed, right? Because then I texted you. I was like, nah, girl, let's change the conversation to let's reflect on just like where did it all go wrong? Like I think that's like the question that everybody, well, technically, the question that a lot of people are asking.
Yeah.
A lot more people should be asking, but instead, and I think this is part of the problem, are instead getting sidetracked by a lot of other like more sensational stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Which kind of like ties into the video that I made that I think I sent it to you, right? Of like this is so much like fucking, what was the news today? Like fucking Fufufafa. Stupid ass username.
I know.
Such a stupid ass username. Like fucking Fufufafa, private jets and all that type of stuff. Which, like, by the way, like I think people are. I think with this whole private jet thing, I think it's a good example of like, you know, the whole point is not the part where they ride a private jet, because like let's be real, like they're not the only ones that like pejabat yang naik private jet. Like Mahfud MD juga pernah. Like Mahfud's one of them, and like a bunch of others as well. It's not the private jet part, and like people just keep focusing on the fucking private jet. Like, girl, it's the gratification part. Like y'all are completely like sidetracking this shit, and so y'all are turning something that is like, there is an issue there, but then you just like kayak fokusnya itu yang malah seharusnya enggak gitu loh.
Right. And then it also distracted you from the democracy conversation altogether.
Girl, fucking BO, remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's still going on, right? There's still fucking, what's his name, Sylvester, like on TV was talking about, there's like this clip of, on CNN too, they were talking about like, Sylvester was saying like, no, I've met her personally and she doesn't have BO. I'm like, why are y'all talking about that on national television? Nobody gives a shit about her fucking BO. Like, that's not even the fucking point. But y'all just get eaten up by these conversations.
So that's what I was saying with the content and container, right? Because I think what we're missing ultimately as a society is the ability to zoom out, because we don't understand the full picture. And when you cannot zoom out enough, you're stuck in this. So my former professor used to use this analogy of like dance floor and the balcony. And he's saying that when you're on the dance floor, you're right in action, right? You are you're bound by your limited awareness of your surrounding only, and you're reacting to a music, right? There's like a music, and you're kind of this music being whatever the government's throwing at you, and you're reacting to what's happening, the private jet, the gratification, the whatever single policy that's being issued. Whereas when you want to win, you need to have the ability to get up to the balcony and really realize what's the big picture. What is actually happening? And like this goes to design thinking, system thinking, you know, like really looking at the big picture and understanding where you actually need to go and like avert the focus on, so that you actually like see the real problem or like the root of the problem, right? And another, so in a funny way, especially when you're on the dance floor, is you're very self-aware, you're very self-conscious. Not self-aware, self-conscious. Like you think that everybody's looking at you, and it became about your ego, and it became about being validated, whether my move, whatever. I mean, it's a funny analogy, but like whether you're moving in whatever fashion that people like. Whereas when you stop caring about that, you start to have a clearer mind, and you can see what actually is the big picture and realize that it's not about you at all. It's not about whether you go to the protest or not, and whether you, get the validation that you need, or you're the rightest person with the most idealistic value, whatever. But it's about getting enough critical mass to care, for example, and to get these people or hold them accountable, right? So I think like that ability to zoom out is really what's missing, and particularly when you don't have basic like political literacy, you don't understand what's going on. So even as you're navigating, because you need to understand, for example, what is MK, what is DPR, what is the president, what is MA, like what are each of their roles, and what is happening with Pilkada, what is Pilkada, and like there's many basic information that you need to have before you can see the big picture, right? And when you lack those basic information, what happens is you're just reacting to every single thing that's happening, and that's not sustainable at all. That can tire you really quickly. That can it will exhaust you, and that's what's happening. Everybody's exhausted because they kept kan gitu kan. Kalau kita bereaksi kan, you don't set the music. The government's setting the music.
You dance into whatever they're playing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what's happening. Maybe that's the way it's being set up by the government. Like if you remember, there was a specific week where it was 3 bad undang-undang at the same time, or not undang-undang, but like there was tapera and like a bunch of 7 things at the same time.
RUU TNI, UU Polri kalau nggak salah juga. Yeah, I remember what you're talking
gitu kan. And then tadi without the ability to zoom out, what you're experiencing on the dance floor is this like anger out of like what marah for every single policy that was issued, right?
Right.
But when you are able to zoom out, you will be able to reserve your energy and realize that okay, ini tuh sebenarnya gamenya 5 tahun, 10 tahun. What needs to happen, and you join a movement towards that final direction instead of just reacting.
Yeah.
So my friends, and this is funny because I work in public policy every day. I've been doing this for about 10 years, but I hate the news. I don't follow the news. You would think that I need to like read the newspaper every day, but I don't, and that's because I think when you focus on the event, when you focus on data points, you miss. So I guess I care about the news in by way of caring about the trends or like the overall patterns, right? Like the analysis of what's happening. But so I'm not saying don't read the news. I'm saying when you read the news, think about like what is happening in the big picture and how do we get the message back to what needs to happen in the when you zoom out, if that makes sense.
Part of digital literacy is also social media literacy, right? And especially like being Gen Z. For context, she's a millennial. I'm Gen Z.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm a little bit sick right now, but don't worry, I'm not gonna get you sick. You're gonna be good. Also, I got Dettol spray over here, so spritz. We're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. Anyways, no, but one of the things that has been really like monumental in like my digital literacy like education is also like learning to not react to every single news headline.
Exactly.
And that has been such a game changer. Like now I have been like part of like me becoming a much more stable character is literally also just like when I see a headline, when I see something that is happening, like there's like this news that everybody's talking about, is trending all over Twitter, is trending all over social media, literally just like put a pause on that. Let it marinate for like the next couple of days. See what more information comes out, and then you react to it, right? And you know what's really convenient about us having this conversation right now is I literally just posted about that pertaining Fufufafa, about the whole. I think it was like the whole Fufufafa. Basically our vice president to be like there's like speculations that is and I'm adamant about using the word speculation, right? Because everybody's immediately, here's the thing, jumping to conclusions, right? That is what is happening when I feel like part of, if we're going to talk about democracy and like where did democracy like we let slide, it's also like when we stopped adhering to guilty until proven innocent, right? And so it's like that's why I hold on to that shit real quick, right? Because I don't like and this is public information, I don't like Gibran any more than the next bitch. But, you know, I think we got to hold them accountable to the misdemeanors that are actually theirs. Right? And so that's why I say speculation, because he's innocent until proven guilty. But there's speculation that the Fufufafa account writing all these like sexist, misogynistic, homophobic shit is his. Right? And I posted a comment on like a post basically saying like if there is concrete irrefutable evidence, then I feel like this is worthy of him being stripped of his position as vice president, right? And then there's like a bunch of comments of people just kind of like going like, oh no, but that's definitely him. And it's like, no, like, yeah, but you don't know that, right? And it's like it's literally everybody. What's the saying in Indonesia? Kayak kemakan emosinya itu terlalu cepet kan. And it's like, and y'all don't realize like the bigger picture of like the issue with that is not just, it's beyond things than just like misinformation or like you're annoying on social media or whatever. It's that you get so lost in the sauce that you get distracted. That sometimes like y'all need to realize that there are evil forces out there that purposely use all these strategies to like incite anger from you, right? Make you confused, make you angry, or whatever, shock you, or what.
Yeah.
And it's like literally used to distract you so that they can work on like more insidious agenda like behind your back.
Yeah. And not just that. What's really bad also about jumping into conclusions quickly is because we have this tendency to defend our initial position, right? When you've made a conclusion and then you realize that you're wrong, not everyone has the openness to say that I'm wrong. I was wrong, right?
Yeah.
New information is discovered and now I realize I was wrong. But like most people are not like that.
Yeah.
So when you make a too quick conclusion, sometimes you're stuck in defending the wrong conclusion.
Yes. Oh my
Because you're already
God.
publicly endorsing that conclusion.
Yeah.
And then no matter what new evidence that comes in,
Right.
and maybe like really strong evidence. I mean, this is not even about Fufufafa anymore, right? I'm not defending him by any means, but I'm just saying in terms of critical thinking and digital literacy, just like waiting for more information, more evidence is always healthy, and especially publicly. Like, let's not say anything public because you tend to do that way. And I think when it comes to, we have local elections soon. I think when it comes to deciding who to vote for example, many people at the beginning of the national election, started early saying that, I'm for this camp, whichever, I'm supporting this or that candidate, before they have the full picture or full information about the candidates, their history, their track records and everything.
Yeah.
And there's quite a few like friends or people I know around me as well who are stuck in defending their choice, even though later they realize that there is new information that is actually not in favor of that candidate. But it's like this embarrassment, this ego, this whatever, and it's very psychologically, it's very real.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that that's what's happening to them. Like when they are defending this position, they don't realize that that's coming from this defending their own ego kind of mindset.
And that's why like I'm so adamant about how it really is up to us, like people like you and me, to be like showing an example of like being people that provide other people a safe space for them to change their position and change their opinion,
exactly.
right? Because otherwise, like it's like a lingkaran setan basically. It's like the reason why people do that is because they know that a lot of other people are gonna be like thinking some type of way about, but one time you said this. But one time your position was this. It's like, no, girl, opinions change, positions change.
It's supposed to change.
And it's supposed
That's
to
the point of learning new things is to update your position.
Exactly. And sometimes like I know, like, and I'll be the first to admit, like in the beginning. So in the end, for the presidential election earlier this year, and this is public information, I ended up voting for 01, right? But in the very beginning, like I was already posting about 03, like even before, to be honest, like I had like a lot like information. We're all susceptible to it, right?
But you changed your mind, and
but
you
basically
were okay with it.
Right. So I was saying like I ended up voting for 01, but in the beginning I was already like, I posted on my story like go ganjar, like go PDIP, even though it's like, oh man, hold on, wait, I don't even have that much information. And look, it's okay that I'm admitting that right now, and it's okay to admit like, okay, like I've done this like one thing before, like that was like maybe a little bit kurang bijak, but then it's like, okay, like you learn, you grow.
Exactly. And if anything, I mean, you should encourage more of that. The word I used in my book, so I wrote a book basically, which was supposed to be about critical thinking, and it started out because people ask me, what do you think critical thinking is? And there's different ways to I guess like describe or define critical thinking.
Right.
But for me, one of the things is having the courage to change your position based on new information.
Yes, heavy.
And so in my book, like one of the chapters, like a big chunk of the book basically talks about ways in which, or examples or points in my life where I changed my opinion about something in a deep way, in a deep fundamental way. Not the basic, I maybe I liked this before and then I liked it. No, but like this is deeper, like how I see nationalism, how I see... there's a chapter that later was removed, which was about how I saw religion. It's too controversial. This society is not ready for that conversation.
Girl, you can send it to me. I want to read it.
But yeah, I can send it to you as long as you promise you're going to keep it to yourself.
I'll keep it to myself.
But yeah, I want to show people that it's okay to change your position and how exactly will you deal with people seeing or reacting to how you change your position, right? Because that's the part where people are usually afraid of is they think that you're a sellout or that you're stupid or whatever it is, like that you lost your idealism is worse. Like sometimes when you started off with this like very narrowly defined idealism and like maybe you discover new things in the world and you change your position slightly, that's okay I guess as long as it's founded in the truth. I mean, if you're interested in what the truth is, you would happily be wrong, right?
Yes.
I am happily wrong when I am. Like I always say, like I would be happily wrong. But when you're interested in just winning the argument or being right for the sake of like in that argument, then I guess like that would incentivize you to not listen to new information, and that's just bad for you.
That's why, part of the discourse of like democracy is so contingent upon open communication, freedom of speech, right? Communication, contingent upon critical thinking.
Yeah. Yes.
And and like a big part of that is also like the understanding that, again, people's opinions change, and that's why like when you are presented with people that present different opinions or like opinions that are different from yours, it's like take that with the understanding that you shouldn't be so threatened with the idea of people having different opinions than you, because especially if we're talking about political opinions are the easiest to change.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Yeah.
What's easier to change? Your
Right.
political stance on like fucking like healthcare, or your I don't know, like your personal stance on like like whether you like chocolate or vanilla, like in terms of flavor. You know what I mean? It's like political opinions are the easiest to change. Now back again to I guess like the core theme of today is like, where did we let democracy go wrong, right? Because it's also like bouncing off of my video, the one that I sent you, of like we're not asking ourselves like, where did we let it go wrong? And I feel like there's different angles of like how we're approaching this. And with me, like I'm heavy on like how, because we've lost the art of dialect, and we've cultivated this environment where I was telling you just now, cancel culture is basically fascism.
Fascist, yes.
Right? And it's like we've created this environment where basically we're only allowing certain opinions to be accepted publicly, and like we're not giving space for different points of views to be presented. And when we lose that, that is detrimental to democracy.
Yeah. Because then people might stop participating altogether in the conversation.
No, and you know what's even crazier? Have you ever seen, I'm sure you have because you're also on Twitter, like you've seen the people that they post a book. They post a book, let's say, I don't know, like fucking like Karl Marx books or some shit like that, right? And then suddenly it's like, there's judgment on like, why are you reading that?
Who was this?
Adalah pokoknya like on Twitter I saw like basically somebody, and like this happens, like I've seen it in like other like book forums as well, because like I'm an avid reader, and it's like there's like this attitude of like, why are you, and this is something that happened to me. I posted on my Instagram story, like I listened to these like political commentators from the United States. They're all from like the Republican side, from the conservative side. And then I got like a shit ton of backlash, especially from this one person that wrote me like a gigantic paragraph of how dare you platform conservative voices that are bigoted, like, and like, like blah, blah, blah. And when it's literally like, that is so dangerous, because you're literally punishing people from seeking information.
Yeah, exactly.
That is so, so dangerous.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting is, isn't the goal to convert people, you need, in a way, like you need that space for discourse and conversation, because if you think what you think is right, of course, everyone comes from that place initially, right? So you're either interested in seeking out for the truth, which means that you should embrace this new ideas or like new opinions, because you're interested in the truth. You want to listen what the other person has to say, or you're interested in converting someone else into agreeing with you, right? Is another like possible outcome.
Yes.
And that also requires discourse. So discourse is always good either way.
Yes.
Is where I was going with this, because I think for me, as a context as well, I come from like I used to work a lot on climate change and public policy, and we I mean like a big part of the change that we need is for capitalism to reform itself, right? To look itself inwardly and change what needs to be changed. And in order to do that, you actually need to engage the businessman. You actually need to engage the capitalist in the conversation.
You gotta include rich people.
Yeah, because that's exactly the people you need to change about how they view what's good, because and what their incentives are in doing their business. I'm not against profit per se, but you need them to see the other side, and that can only happen if you engage them.
Yes.
And so when I started out, I joined this NGO basically on environment, and I was really my first year there. I was realizing all the conferences, all the policy dialogues, conversations that I went to are filled with already green organizations. So we were just talking amongst ourselves.
You were in a little echo chamber.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, a little echo chamber, because it makes us feel good, right? Like, this is the right opinion. Everyone who comes in the room have the right
moral and mental masturbation.
Exactly. So if you're not standing in the same high moral ground, you're not allowed here, or like you don't deserve to be here. And then I went to do my master's, and when I came back, I made it a mission of mine to go to the brownest organization possible, like to where the brown as opposed to green is what I meant. Like, go to an organization that actually works with non-green actors.
Oh, that's the term.
That
so that's the two colors, green and brown.
Green and brown.
I see. Okay. Continue.
Yes, that's what I meant. So, and then, so I worked for a development bank that did not have, now they're already doing a lot of reforms, but basically they were recruiting, or I was being recruited as the only green person in the macroeconomics team, which had no idea what climate change is. It's not that they didn't care. So the assumption, when you don't engage, right? When you don't engage, the assumption is that, look at those economists. They're those, let's say, traditional liberal economists. Like, they don't know anything about climate change, and they're not worth engaging because they don't understand what it is. But exactly by going to them and engaging and talking to them is how you change their mind, right? You need to expose them to the right information that is, like, for your cause, I guess, like for what you're fighting for. And so my role in that organization basically was briefing all my mostly like international, mostly white, mostly senior men bosses on what climate change is. They're really smart, like very senior economists, very smart, very bright, very eloquent as well. But they simply didn't have they came through a tradition of like tradition of knowledge that didn't expose them enough to what the problem is. And so it's as simple as like, Afu, can you do a 40-minute call with me and brief me? It was during COVID as well. So it was all calls. But like, what is this? Like, what is climate resilience and whatnot? But like now that I didn't do it single hand. I don't want to claim for like the change. I think like it's a lot of things happening globally as well. But basically, it is through engaging exactly the people across your aisle is your way of like getting them on board. So when cancel culture is your go-to, you're automatically excluding a potential ally, a potential recruit for your cause, because you already label them as incompetent or like not knowing the right thing,
or like the enemy, the other.
The other, exactly. But to win your cause, you need everyone to be in the same camp, like or more, or the critical mass, I guess. But so I definitely I think cancel culture is the enemy of progress.
Yeah, no, 100%. And remember what I was telling you earlier. Okay, so y'all need to hear this, because I have a friend named Diaz. Shout out to Diaz, because I feel like you're going to be tuning into this episode. And Diaz, he said something to me one time, and it really resonated. Is the whole apples and oranges on Twitter thing. It's for some reason. And this is, I guess, not exclusive to Twitter. It's social media. But I personally experience this the most on Twitter. I feel like most people experience this the most on Twitter. But for some reason, when you tweet, or apples are a good source of vitamin C, for some reason, a lot of people's visceral reaction when they read that is to go, oh, so you don't think oranges are a good source of vitamin C? Padahal it's like, just because we did it, that's not included, doesn't mean that it's antithetical. Like, it doesn't mean that it's going against. It just wasn't included. And and it's not, we can extrapolate that not to just like sentiments of like, apples, oranges, and vitamin C, but also like even like with people, right? Because there's like this tendency of like, for example, and I'm about to say something super controversial here. Or maybe not controversial, but it's like, I feel like a lot of people are going to have they're going to feel some type of way about this. But let's say like, for example, like what you were saying about, you're in like climate change, like, green versus brown, right? And so people like in the green camp thinking all these people that are not in green, they're inherently anti-green. When it's literally just like, nah, like they're not anti-green just because they aren't included. And like, y'all don't even give them the literally space to be included, right? And so it's like, and then I think of that in the same way with get ready, clench your ass cheeks. Like when people talk about like rich people and like being involved in politics and like grassroots especially, that's where it resonates with me, like on a personal level, because it's always like when I honestly, like, I want to speak up, like, I want to stand up for myself a little bit here too, where there's been like many times where I try to, what's the adjective? Like, touch the grassroots, like to engage in the grassroots.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, there are times where I want to engage in the grassroots and I try, only for it to get shut down under the guise of people going like elitist, like capitalist rich girl, like, you know, fucking blah blah blah. Okay, I get that. And like, of course, like, it's a like point being, like, what I'm trying to say is like it's a huge turnoff, right? And I think about it a lot too in terms of political activism, right? And for me, like, me personally, I've always been somebody who's politically active and politically outspoken, which is very different from like my friends. And like, mind you, I come from a background of like basically like all these like upper class like Chinese Indonesians, right? Like, if we want to talk about my community, right? And it's like, let's just admit something, like when you think of like upper class, like, you don't typically think like politically outspoken and active, right? And like, you know, it's really interesting. Like, I've talked about this with like a group of my friends, and you know, I'm like I was like, you know, do y'all just like not? Is it because like y'all don't care, like y'all are scared, or like, you know, what is it, right? And then I had a friend who said the wildest thing. He was like, I mean, I just don't see the benefit of like me advocating for all of these things, that in the, like, for the benefit of all of these people, that like if they had been advocating for all of these benefit for all of these people that would not hesitate to basically like bankrupt me or like take it out on me because like I'm somebody who's rich, and like fuck the rich and eat the rich and all that type of stuff, right? So it's like, you know, part of like democracy and like, you know, communication, and like how communication is so, dialogue is so essential to democracy. And like, part of what makes dialogue hard is also because like we have this tendency of like the othering, right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
Where it's like, I know so many like kids that come from like rich families that like, you know, like, I think they would be open to the idea of like being more politically active and outspoken. And like, I mean, especially like, why it's so important for, I think, people from the upper class to do it is because like we hold like power, right?
Yeah.
Like, duh. So it's like, you know, it's like in another life like they could, but like y'all just always so like mean, and then you just turn them off, and then like that's why like they just don't.
Yeah, I think I have a few thoughts about this. So first, I think it's the ability. So when you say that the brown people, when you differentiate between the green camp and the brown camp, and then saying that you know, brown is not antithesis of the green camp, it's not exactly right as well, because there are real brown companies, I guess, who are actually fighting against like all the change that the green camp is fighting for. There are real antitheses out there. But I guess it's like what I was saying is like having the ability to capture the centrist in between, who's there simply because they're not exposed to the information. It's not because they're anti-green that they haven't been engaged. It's because they lack the information. And the ability to differentiate between real villains with ignorance, like people simply not having access to information or like not being engaged enough, is very critical in winning your cause, right? Because, for example, legitimately, like if you are saying like all the fossil fuel industries, they are real antithesis to the green movement because they are, because their profits is directly in opposition to, for example, the shift to change. Although there a few of them are changing, and there's like this whole progress that's already happening. But I guess like that change only happens when you're able to capture the leaders or like the people who are willing, who are like right here in the center and are willing to engage and being open, like being exposed to new information that they can support your cause after. And sometimes the othering process is basically the process of excluding these people in the center to the right, even though they're initially at the center, but by excluding them and labeling them and not including them in the conversation, it, you know, push them away basically it polarizes them. And you don't want that. Like you actually, what you were saying in terms of like engaging the rich people, for example, I think there definitely are like real villains, as in like actual rich people, like at the top of like certain industries, I mean, I'm sure you've met these people. I've
100%
heard of and met these people, and they're real villains. But there are non-villains who are, unfortunately, sometimes are being hated more because they're part of this organization, but they're actually willing to engage with you, but they're being excluded simply because you're afraid of them or like you're othering them already. And that's exactly what's happening with like second generation, third generation rich kids, right? Because maybe their parents were part of the problem, maybe, and because maybe it came from, it was a different time and like different, maybe it's its own ignorance and whatever, and they're stuck in their incentive system already to change. But the next generations are exactly like your potential allies. You want to recruit them, you want to help them be part of the change and the shift, and being able to differentiate that is so important. And so also just to clarify, when I say cancel culture is the enemy of progress, I am differentiating between cancel culture with holding people accountable. I still think that people need to be held accountable for example, for not wrong opinions, right? But
misinformation, data.
Whatever. And it can take different shapes and form, but it definitely shouldn't be done in a way that stops them from engaging into the truth.
Yeah. Right, there is a difference between wanting to hold people accountable versus you just wanting to bully them over making a mistake.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
And I need to. I mean, I'm an object of being canceled as well a few times
you and me both, sister.
on Twitter, and it's like I'm open to different opinions. Okay, like they could simply. I was just telling you, I'm not gonna talk the specifics on the record, but if they can just say, "Oh, Afu, maybe you meant A, not B," I would happily like invite them over coffee and let's just talk about it because I'm happy to be wrong, or I'm happy to be learning new things. But when the way they share that information is you're wrong because you come from this education and because you're like all the ad hominem like labeling, then why would I want to engage with you? Why would I want to believe in the same truth that or like being engaged in the conversation in the first place? So you're already othering me. And how does that help your cause?
And there's also like, I mean, part of it, you read. You're also an avid reader.
Yeah.
So have you read this book called Stolen Focus? By Johann Hari? My goodness, like I can't promote this book enough. Like it is probably one of the most important books for us to read, especially like in this digital age, in this like social media age. There is an element of social media where it's like, for some reason, I mean, this is an actual, I forgot the name, I'll put it up on screen, but basically it's like when people are on social media, they're a lot more violent and a lot more like, not confrontational. Confrontational is not a bad thing, but they're very hostile. Like people are a lot more hostile online compared to like if we were actually like sitting face to face. So there's like a bit of a dehumanizing element to social media, but it's also like with social media, I feel like part of it, and that's why like digital literacy, social media literacy has been kind of like a newfound passion of mine that like I'm really like, I feel very strongly about. Also because like people like you and me, we've been on the receiving end of like people that don't have social media and digital literacy that take it out on us, right? I think the word I'm looking for is empathy and compassion, right? Because it's like you have to realize like the person on the other side, no matter how famous they are, no matter like how many followers they have, or no matter like who, whatever, they're also humans that are just as susceptible to making the same blunders as you. Oh, and like another point, and I was talking about this on my social media, but just really quickly, and I swear like all of this really does tie to the topic of like where did democracy go wrong? I think democracy goes wrong when you can't even tell the difference between like what's a blunder versus a different opinion. Right? Because that's what I was saying, right? A blunder means a careless mistake, which by the way, all of us are susceptible to and all of us have at some point done. Right? Being a public figure doesn't, you not being a public figure or you being a public figure doesn't negate that because that is the constant human condition. So a blunder is a careless mistake. Don't label somebody's opinion that you disagree with as a mistake. That's not a mistake, right? So it's like, it's also, like I'm telling you, like back again to the question of where we've let democracy slide, I think just so much of it is like losing the art of dialogue. Like not being able to tolerate different opinions and resorting to fascist cancel culture. Like I think that's part of it, but I want to see like what other, like if I ask you like where did democracy go wrong, like what's another, like where else did we go wrong?
Sorry, I had a thought about what you said about differentiating blunder and having a different opinion. What was I going to say? Oh, empathy. Empathy and compassion. This is very interesting, right? So empathy and compassion is a lot of work. You need to have enough mental space and cognitive space to extend that to someone else. you need to already regulate your own emotions to be able to extend empathy to another person, right? It's a lot of work. So it's almost like a privilege of the, I don't know if privilege is the right word for it, but I understand that most people cannot afford it. It's not something that's affordable.
Yeah.
And then it's especially rare or difficult to extend it to someone that you think have a lot more than you. And that's where, like, for public figures, you have more of many things. Extending empathy is definitely difficult. Like, extending empathy to someone who have less is very easy.
Yeah.
So only the mentally strong, like mentally peaceful, amazing people can extend empathy to everyone.
Yeah.
I just want to say that. So it's not easy is where I was going with. And that's why when someone gave that kind of comment to me and like not extending empathy and compassion, when I'm in a good place, I extend my empathy and compassion back.
Yeah.
And realizing that, okay, I'm sorry that you are going through something maybe, and that's why you cannot extend empathy to me, or that you don't think I deserve your empathy and compassion, which
Right.
is sad. But it's very dehumanizing almost for me as on the receiving end, because I feel like I still deserve empathy and compassion because I still feel very vulnerable. But I guess to another person who saw me through my social media presence, it seems like I already have so much that I will be doing fine without their empathy and compassion.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Well, and also they want to humble you down.
And they want to humble me down.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I'm doing enough to myself. I don't need any extra help to humble myself down. But what gets interesting is the question of whether politicians deserve our empathy and compassion. And it is a conversation worth having, because I think I want to differentiate between public figures and politicians. And it's very important because public figures are private actors. We were not politically appointed by anyone to do anything. I am a free agent. I live in the same legal system as you are, where I navigate things, like we're the same citizens. We're like equal citizens, right? And some people are richer, but they're still private individuals, versus politicians who, at that point, is already not themselves. Like when we are angry at Jokowi, it's not personal. Like it's not Jokowi, it's a presidential seat that he's sitting on. If it's a kementerian, it's the seat of menteri that we're criticizing, and that's a politically appointed person that we voted for to make a decision for us. And so that question, so when the government, when the politicians got back to us and say, yang sopan dong marah-marahnya, apa sih biasanya bilangnya kayak kritik itu harus sopan apa gitu kan. Itu kan seolah-olah it came from the same emotion that I was describing about myself as a private citizen, a private individual that feels like, oh, maybe I deserve your empathy because it is affecting me personally. But I don't know, or I don't think that that's extendable to politicians, the same empathy and compassion in that sense, when it's clear that, I mean, they are responsible for our well-being, and it's the well-being of millions of people in Indonesia. And so the culture of receiving feedback when you're a politician needs to change. It shouldn't be anymore about whether how a criticism or like an input is being packed. Like it's not. Sometimes they gaslight us back, right? Like oh nggak sopan ini gitu. But it's not personal. So it's not like how am I extending empathy to your seat? You see what I mean? So I think. So it's interesting, right? So I get that, yes, I think like in terms of private conversations and all of this, I think definitely empathy and compassion would allow for a healthier space for conversations for everyone, which is good for democracy. And I'll get back to your question in a bit. But I think when it comes to politicians, the government has to have a different mentality and cannot bring their kind of like this very Indonesian kritik itu harus sopan kind of mindset to hide behind a legitimate input, right? Because when it's a legit input, just like take it in. And that's the same with for example, well, I'm building an organization as well, and when there's like a legitimate input to the organization, which is more like in a macro scale of things is, well, first of all, we're also private. We don't owe anyone anything. We're not appointed by anyone politically. So, but it's different from when people attack me personally. which is, so I think it's just good to have that awareness as we put out comments on other people on social media as well.
I want to run this idea by you, right? Because this is also like the topic of like whether or not politicians are deserving of our like compassion and empathy. Like that is, and that's already, I already know people are going to get so heated in this part, right?
Yeah.
But I wanted to explore this one idea with you, right? And when I say, see, y'all got to listen to me. When I say like, I want to explore an idea, that is, because like, I'm not agreeing. I'm not disagreeing.
Exactly.
I'm literally just exploring an idea.
I got canceled on Twitter because I was exploring an idea.
Yeah, no, I've been there, done that too. Like exploring an idea, and then suddenly it's like it fucking backfires. Where it's like, and that's also again tying again to like, you know, you want to live in a democracy. There's a lot of responsibilities that come with it, right? And like a lot of like really like heavy duty shit that you gotta uphold in order for democracy to be to be upheld. And it's like, y'all can't even give people the space to explore ideas. Like democracy is certainly not gonna fucking work, right? So again, heavy on that part. But I want to explore this idea of like politicians deserving of empathy and compassion. Now see, Rocky Gerung, he was the one who said, right, when we criticize Jokowi, we criticize him as the president. Criticizing the president is different from criticizing Jokowi.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
And like, see, like on that front, like I 100% agree.
Okay.
And so like my question that I'm like wanting to explore here is would that then fall upon us? Like like there's a degree of I guess the word would be responsibility of like making sure that it is clear that this is a critique on the president of Indonesia versus Jokowi the person.
No, it's on them.
Why?
I think the burden of, right, the burden of differentiating or like understanding what it is on them, because it was their decision to run for a public office.
Do you?
And you realize all the consequences that come with it, the accountability, the degree of accountability, and basically, because I went to, again, like a public policy school, right? And basically the expected job that everyone will be having at the end is to run for office and to serve as a public servant. And like a core first step of understanding what it meant to step up as a public servant is that you're a servant of the public. And when you take on that role, you decide. Nobody's forcing you to run for office, right? You don't have to be president. You don't have to be a legislator. You decide to take on that role. And you know that that's, for the most, it's a big responsibility. And so what's wrong is when like someone thinks that running for office is an opportunity to gain power and you only see it as like influence and power. That's very different mindset from like, I'm running to be a servant of the public, and that's why I am completely at the service of the public, and they're free to like criticize and give me inputs. And not to mention that I think, again, with empathy and compassion being something that you need to be able to afford, I think, again, like you decide to run for office, right? Like it's you need to have that cognitive space and like the right mental space that you understand the public you're serving is not perfect. It's kind of like a parenting decision. Like I decide to parent this country. I'm going to be a president of this country. You have little children. They will act however they want to act. But you step up to be the parent.
It's so they didn't ask to be born.
So the burden of understanding or like differentiation is with you, not with the people, for me.
So do you agree with the sentiment that politicians are public property?
Yes, when they, so this is why there's like this transition, like when you go to work, you are not public property, but like you are filling in a role. Maybe that's not the right word, like public property, but like you're filling in a role, and whatever people are saying is about that role that you're supposed to execute well, right? But when you go home, you're allowed for your private space, and that's when you're not the president, and you have your own little space where you know. You're yourself. You're mulyono.
A little sickly mulyono.
You're a husband, you're a father, or whatever it is. But when you're out there and the decisions that we're criticizing him for is public decisions. It's related to our tax money. It's related to the Constitution. That's all public properties, like that all belong to the state and to the nation. So we are free to criticize you as a public, as a politician dealing with or like working on those public, apa ya bahasanya? Yeah, like the public matters, I guess.
Because like this is very interesting because I had the opportunity to like have a heart to heart with like a certain, obviously not going to say who, but basically like I was able to have a heart to heart with this like one politician that I would say like friends with, and basically like their experience of like the other side, right? And that was like really interesting for me to hear because of course, like I'm not a politician. The fuck do I know? And I'm on the other end criticizing politicians, right? But very rarely do I hear from like the politicians that are being criticized. And again, huge disclaimer: just because I'm talking about this, I'm exploring an idea. I'm not defending this person. I'm not agreeing or whatever the fuck. Okay, but this person said that like criticize like. People also don't know the difference between criticizing me for being a politician versus criticizing me and like just bullying me like as a person.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
now I feel like that's the part.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the part where I give compassion and like I have empathy for as well because like you and I are also the receiving end of that. Right. But it's like it's like you get to, and I feel that way too. Like as a content creator, right? Like you get to criticize. Yeah. You get to criticize my content if it's something that is a little lackluster, like, Indah, this is a boring ass episode, or like, Indah, like, what the fuck, like, that information was wrong. All that is completely valid, right? But then, like, once you start going into shit like, for example, like my sex life, or like you start being racist, or, like personal ad hominem, right? And I guess, like, that's also where, like, again, it all keeps coming back to, like, the art of dialogue of, like, you need to know the difference between, like, giving people constructive criticism in order for them to take accountability for what went wrong versus like you just want an outlet to be able to be a bully, right?
Exactly. And I think it goes back to us Indonesians not being used to seeing different opinions. We're so, like, our education system builds us to groupthink almost as a default.
Yeah, because we're like
that, like, being different is like immediately punished. And so as an adult, once there's no structure or like system anymore to make sure that everyone or like the way that you're used to where everyone agrees on everything, and then you realize that out in the world actually people have different opinions, and you don't know how to act, or like you're easily you're reactive and you're like emotional to people having different opinions than yours, and that's definitely an issue. And and it's very easy to spot, right, the criticism that are kayak, misalnya, Mbak, ini harusnya ini undang-undangnya salah gitu kan. Like there's a specific article, if we're talking about a politician legislator, I guess, right? The legitimate input is like, you're completely misdesigning, or like you prioritize the wrong undang-undang, let's say, versus like, you're an ugly legislator, whatever. Like that's very different. And I guess when I was saying that, we're criticizing the role and like the position, that's for the first one, clearly, But going back to your, like, where have we
gone wrong? Where what other angles do you dissect it from? Like, I'm dissecting it from an angle of like freedom of speech and like critical thinking and all that type of shit. But like, are there like other angles? I have another one, but I want to wait for yours first.
I think at least 4 different angles. I want to go back to the very beginning, which was Reformasi 1998.
Oh, that's way back.
That's when we started having democracy. Because definitely, you can argue that during Sukarno's time as well, we didn't have real democracy. So we only had a real democracy in 1998, and it's a question whether and how real it was, because we were just so in Bijak Demokrasi we invited Bivitri Susanti, if you know who she is.
I've heard the name,
just like a really cool. How do I describe what she does? But
badass
she's a okay, let's go with that. But we were asking this question, and she was saying that we missed the opportunity in 1998 to actually reform the political system and change it in a deep, fundamental way so that it allows for real democracy. We missed the window. And she was comparing that time with post-Nazi Germany, where Germany after World War II, I guess, really looked into what went wrong and how they got Hitler to be where he was, like what was wrong with like how the political party system works, the election, the chancellor versus president setup, and all of that, and they reformed all of that. Whereas what we got after 1998 is it's pretty much the same system. The one major thing that changed was we allow for new political parties to be established. Right now, you can set up like a new parties. But even then, the way that political parties need to be set up in this country, the requirements is being set up such that you need to come from either like old money or like the old system to be able to afford a new party in the first place. You need to have enough resources, harus tersebar di 75% di seluruh kabupaten, and I might be wrong, but like something like that. And then what happened was since then was all the political parties really is just a different color from Golkar. Right? It's all Golkar kader creating their own political parties. It's the same culture. It's the same elite capture within the political parties. Itu baru dari partainya aja ya. There's many things, but one is we never truly reform the power that the political party leaders have, and what we ended up with is the same kind of few elites that capture democracy at the top, gitu satu, and then economically, we have more middle class today than we had 25 years ago. Right? So the statistics change. So I think it is shrinking. Pa Chatib Basri, I think, wrote an op-ed as well. It's about 17% now, which is about 40-50 million people in Indonesia are middle class. About 100 million of us are aspiring middle class, which means that they've graduated from the vulnerable status or like poverty. Now, I mean, they're from paycheck to paycheck, but they're okay. They're kind of doing okay, right?
Yeah.
But what that means is for the middle class, what being richer or being able to afford more things means is you have less need for the government. Because if you cannot afford your own car, you will rely a lot more on public transport. And what that means is when public transport quality is bad, you'll have to like speak up and like voice out, right? But like now, no, you just get your own motorbike or car, not realizing that you're basically taking the burden of the government providing you free or affordable public transport to your own hands, and you end up with nyicil mobil gitu every month misalnya. You don't rely on good public health institutions or public schools anymore because you're able to afford your private schools or private health insurance or like private hospitals. And so again, so because of that, so we have this like middle class, not to mention the actual richer, like upper middle class that we were talking about earlier, and who can afford to live life without engaging with politics. Gitu. Padahal mereka yang paling, they're the ones with the most voice in a way, or like resource. They're the ones who are able to afford going to peaceful protest because they can get cuti atau apa. The rest of us could, like middle class who have corporate jobs are the ones like who can do that. And then there's the aspiring middle class. This is a third element, I guess. Like there's the aspiring middle class, over 100 million of them, who are able to afford kind of cheap phones, who are on TikTok and on all sorts of social media, but not, I mean, I'm not saying the middle class are better either, but I think like all of them are coming from an education system that doesn't quite train them to think critically, to process information, to have literacy in general, but especially digital literacy. And so they're even more susceptible. Without a phone, they were susceptible, but with a phone, they're even more susceptible to misinformation and polarizing information, even more so.
Yeah.
Not to mention also their susceptibility and like need to like emotionally manipulative content, right? And then we still have the vulnerable and the poor who are still capture of money politics, right? And I cannot blame them, like for this specific group, right? They're not realizing that the 500,000 that they took actually is at the cost of the next 5 years times 365 days of their lives, which is a very cheap cost or like trade-off, but they're not realizing it because they live for the day and they need the, for example, bansos or and yeah, they cannot think critically. So one is we didn't reform our political system in 1998. Then economically we've changed. The last one I want to say is the education system, but not just in terms of literacy, but specifically on civic education, how we do civic education in this country. I was just learning that there are two types of civic education. In the one is what they call as nation building. This is typically the kind of PPKN that you do after independence, when you're a newly established nation.
Sorry, what is PPKN?
Oh, PPKN is the civic education, basically.
Okay.
Pendidikan kewarganegaraan.
Okay.
Like citizen education.
Got it, okay.
The nation building curriculum is about establishing your identity as one nation, because you're just forming yourself. You don't know what being an Indonesian mean. So it's all about nationalistic, patriotistic type of curriculum where it's like, oh, kita merdeka dari penjajah, and like all this like history focused type of citizenship education and maybe like basic information, versus the second school of thought in terms of civic education, which is about how to criticize and engage in a democracy, which is like when you graduate as a nation, when you're already building your nation, when we all know we're Indonesians, okay, we're fine, we know it. We're supposed to graduate to this next curriculum, which equip you to be better citizens, to engage with the political system itself. So how do you protest? How do you, what do I need to understand about what my local government's doing?
Right.
Can I engage in participatory budgeting? Can I know what my money is my tax money is being spent on? Like those are a different curriculum altogether, right? Which is, which we're not there yet. So pretty much like the Indonesian curriculum right now is still focused on like nation building. I think is my understanding. I'm sure the international schools maybe are like better at this. I don't know, but I don't know. That's also an assumption. I might be wrong. Maybe not.
What, PPKN?
Yeah, in terms of like better civic education.
Girl, what civic education do you think I got?
It's probably worse in that case.
Oh, extremely.
Extremely worse. Okay. Yeah. So there's that, and then so what that's left us with is this group of people who are after we graduate from school, we're also focused on getting a job, or like we have all these expectations about the roles that we are doing in a society.
Right.
Excuse me. The role as a parent, the role as a karyawan, as a staff, but we're not prepared as this like default role as a citizen. Not everyone realizes that that's like a role as well that we all are exercising, right? So we are disengaged. So what you got is a system that allows for the corrupt and the elite capture to flourish, which is not on us. That's like on them as well. So I also want to hold the politicians accountable, right, for exploiting a system that allows them to do what they want to do in the first place. But at the same time, we're left with kind of like ignorant, like having no incentive to care kind of society on the outside. So it's like on both sides, on the, I call it like demand and supply side are both kind of problematic, and that's why we're here.
Right. Oh, I love this. I have so many points that I want to follow up on. Number one, feudalism is also like one thing, because I don't know if I think you might know this better than me. Is feudalism antithetical to democracy? It is, right? Like you can't have like a democratic society that's like feudalistic. So it's like we're very feudalistic. And I was trying to listen to an episode where Rocky Gerung was talking about how feudalism even manifests into our education system, but that's like way out of my capacity to talk about. So I mean, y'all just like tune into that one. I'll probably put it up on screen. But I mean, feudalism is one. And then the other thing too, immediately right off the bat, when you said political parties, part of a democracy, you cannot have it whereby the only way for you to, number one, move forward as a candidate is, I don't think the issue is more so like the issue is not necessarily that you have to be backed by a political party, but the fact that only rich people can get into political parties. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the thing that when I was talking with Jovial, I was like, why the fuck is it so expensive to run for DPRD aja itu harganya berapa ya, kayak 100 kayak per bulan. Remember that episode that I did? So the DPRD, the DPRD candidate, she was, I think, shelling out 100 million a month. Itu DPRD, belum DPR. Like that's insane. Like 100 million a month. Like y'all don't understand how much that that is an exorbitant amount of money that not everybody has. So it's like the fault of also like a political system whereby you're expecting what? Rich people to represent the masses that are absolutely not rich. Like that's already like you're bound to fail.
And like there's one, not quick, but like major fix that can help with that, which is a completely publicly financed political party, like a patungan based party. Because back in the days, I mean, like the ideal way of setting up a party is you have, let's say, few thousand members, right? Everyone chips in.
Isn't that what America does?
I mean,
Party?
I guess like people donate in certain levels, but yeah, I mean, in order to have a membership card, you're supposed to ini kan. Actually, maybe the one political party that does that in a very like effective way was PKI. PKI was really like the petani-petani itu semuanya patungan. They're like completely publicly funded, and that's why when people run, it's based on. Okay, I don't know if I should say like
a disclaimer.
It seems like I'm endorsing. Yeah, exactly.
She's not endorsing. But again, critical thinking and critical listening. She's not endorsing PKI, guys.
Yeah, let's just talk about it as a recommendation of moving forward. Right? I want to imagine like a new political party that is completely financed by the people, by the middle class. Which requires the middle class to care about politics first.
Right.
Because if you actually understand what it means to have a good, competent candidate and like a good, transparent process, paying, let's say, 10 million per year, 10 million rupiah per year, it's actually cheap, right? So I mean, you afford like the middle class afford their shoes, their fancy sneakers and whatever. And think about what possibilities that would allow like a party that has enough resources to not rely on the conglomerates, to not rely on the big industries, the big let's say mineral extraction type of industries, that would allow for like a political party to actually work for the interest of the members because the members are paying. But because we're from a culture that is not used to like political party membership and like paying for such, and that's still perceived as something really weird. That creates a system that relies on fees from members yang akhirnya jadi mahal banget karena it's not like a broad membership, but it's like a few members that are being recruited or coming from a few donors who are like just the rich few who are controlling the outcome of the party.
Yeah, I mean, it's like konsepnya tuh gak beda jauh. Like the concept isn't that far off from like you think of it from like a stock investment point of view. Basically like when you do that, like your idea, exactly. you're the main stakeholder. Instead of all of these like big corporations, right? The middle class, the rakyat is the main stakeholder.
Exactly.
So all these politicians are going to have an obligation to be listening to the middle class, to the masses or whoever like donated their money. Stakeholders. At the end of the day, it's just all business. Yeah,
I'll put it in simpler terms. Imagine if like the 1% pay 10x, but where middle class is 17%, right? Let's say 17, 18%. If the 18% patungan enough to outnumber what the 1% is, funneling through the political parties, we can drive the agenda. We can drive the political agenda and actually have like good, competent politicians out there.
Exactly. No, that's actually like, that's one of it. So my point was feudalism. I want to talk about feudalism and then a political party. And then you said something else. Oh, my God.
Oh, sorry. I keep like
no, it's fine.
Cutting you off.
No, it's fine. No, you don't cut me off at all. Like, I'm trying to remember. Also, because I'm a little bit sick. So, like, brain is not braining.
It'll come back.
It'll come back. But I want to move on to, like, a different angle. Like, where did democracy go wrong? And like the angles that we're dissecting that question from, right? So one of the angles, actually, this is the post that I sent you on Instagram. So I'll put it up on screen. This is such a good time to be filming this episode because the U.S. is having their... They just had the debate. Are you going to watch?
Oh, I haven't seen it. Was it last night?
It was literally... Well, their last night. Well, our this morning.
Okay.
Are you going to watch it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm bracing myself. I don't know. Like every time I listen to Donald Trump, I just lose brain cells. I'm not going to lie. But anyways, back again to like... the other, where did democracy go wrong? And like my angle, and like I sent Afu this post from the Washington Post, and it says here, any candidate is capable of using their influence to gaslight. As the election approaches, make a habit to check in with your values. Do this, and then it's like a graphic of like like basically supposed to be like you. It's like a cartoon version of you. And then it's like thought bubbles. And then it says, do this candidate's values truly align with my own?
Yeah.
I want to know where you stand because actually, like, I disagree with this.
Oh, okay.
I disagree with this. Like when we say that when you're basically encouraging people to vote based off of personal values, I 100% disagree with that. And I feel
What do
like
you think
that's
people should vote based on?
like when we vote for politicians, we also inherently vote for policies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those policies should not be voted in the way that I see it. Those policies should not be voted for based off of, well, I like this policy because I align with it, I agree with it, I benefit from it, so I'm going to vote for it. Because if we want to truly like be a democracy, and not just a democracy, but a democracy that is equitable and equal for all, then it's like you have to be voting for policies that also keeps in mind, but what about the other people that perhaps are like of a different value? Will this policy that I am voting for also encompass their liberty? Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I think like an example would be if let's say this is just an example on the top of my
What
head.
do you mean? Yeah.
Like if I'm somebody who is anti-abortion,
Yeah.
let's say I come from a religious background that's basically like, well, my religion teaches me that abortion is wrong. So I'm not gonna vote for this policy because to me, in my religion, abortion is wrong. But then inherently, like that is going to impede upon the liberty of other people who, number one, don't come from my religious background, and number two, also like, you know, I may not want to get an abortion, but what if you want to get an abortion?
Yeah.
And what, just because like, so I'm voting on laws based on my personal values when it's a country that's shared between you and me.
I think what you're implying is also don't vote for a policy that will inflict or like force your value of what is right on other people, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with that. And that's so I want to go back all the way back to the beginning of democracy as well, which is Athena and which is Socrates. Like Socrates didn't like democracy. He hated it because he thinks that people should spend a lot of time deeply thinking about the consequences of their vote for them to earn the right to vote in the first place. And by deeply thinking, he meant that people should think about all the consequences in a macro, like in an overall like macro level, not just for in a holistic way, not just for themselves. And that's exactly what you were describing, right?
Yeah.
So to earn the right to vote, to him, it's like you should earn it because you philosophize. Okay, that's like overly romanticizing, but because you think about your country and you think about where the direction you think the country should go and what does it take in a leader to be able to take your country to the right place. And that means not being selfish, not being just thinking about your own interests.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what you're explaining earlier. And he also used this analogy of seafaring, right? For someone, if a citizen never fares in the sea, doesn't understand how difficult it is to navigate like the sea, then you wouldn't know what it takes. Apa sih nakoda, to be the whatever captain of the ship. That's why the right to vote for him shouldn't be given out freely to everyone. It's not a right, but you need to earn it.
Yep.
Because you think about it deeply. And so when people vote based on their interest only, I think is what you're saying. I guess like value and interest is a bit overlapping in this case.
Yeah.
But I think what really that decision of like the anti-abortion group came down to is like they're voting based on their interests, right? They want people to, they want to take away the right to abort for everyone else, even though they won't do it themselves. But basically they're voting based on their own interests. And that's what's fundamentally happening in democracy today. It's like free right, everyone can vote. But then when people don't have, using his word, like don't think deeply or philosophize about the country, then they will make a decision based on their little narrowly defined interest. And that's very dangerous. And that's exactly, so like I agree with him that the right to vote, we need to think carefully about the right to vote and what that entails. but I don't think we have any other system that's better than democracy. So also, I'm not endorsing any other form of government, but there's definitely a number of conditions on how you teach your society, you raise your society, your people, like as a nation. What kind of education system, what kind of civic education that you're giving to the people for the democracy to actually work, for people to be voting in the interest of everybody, as opposed to their own interests.
Yes, exactly.
And this is. And this is why when we don't understand like fundamentally what democracy is supposed to achieve, we just take it as a good thing, like for granted. Like democracy is good, period.
Yeah.
Like it's like as if it's like an absolute 0 or 1, black or white kind of situation, like democracy or not democracy. When in reality there is good quality democracy, and then there's self-sabotaging democracy where people are voting against each other, where people who are like not informed and not think deeply about the big picture, like what the country needs and everything. Like you ended up giving that much power to people, using his word is like who doesn't know about seafaring to pick their captain, and they can pick the wrong captain. Absolutely, that's gonna drive the ship into just like to sink. When I said that I agreed with Socrates in terms of the right to vote needs to be earned, it's not that I'm blaming people who do not spend their time thinking about the country, or like who do not understand public policy, or like can think about these things, because to be fair, they're also a victim of the system, of the failing education system, or like a lack of investment in public education system, because they are victims. They're not necessarily like by choice, not wanting to engage, or like not being able to afford earning this right to vote. But I guess what's funny is, and when you say that there are people who say that Indonesia is probably not compatible with democracy, usually that's like people say that in terms of their economic level of a country, right? Like, oh, you need to like graduate, you need to have everyone middle class enough for them to be able to afford to think about politics and stuff like that, which I disagree with. I think how I would like to characterize it is when a nation is new and are still poor, let's say like a new nation, right? You were just born. If the argument is that if like you cannot afford democracy if you're poor and you don't have education, then like every single new nation will just keep having like an authoritarian government. That's not it, right? I think when a nation was just born and it's still poor, it is the responsibility of the elites, of the, I like using the word kaum terpelajar, of the privileged, of the educated and the privileged, the founding fathers, to protect the ignorant newly born society, right? They're still kind of like a baby. They're still learning about what's needed and so on. So they're supposed to have a healthy, transparent discourse, a space for that kind of discourse, which they had. If you read I think because of Panji and Pak Anies' conversation, they talked about the BPUPKI meeting, the Rapat Persiapan Kemerdekaan Indonesia. So they had it like recorded the whole conversation in a book. And if you read that, that's when the elite of Indonesia at that time discuss openly about whether this country should be a republic, whether this country should be a federalist state, and so on, and like what are the guiding values and so on. But it is their responsibility at that time, right, as the kaum terpelajar, the privileged few, we need to protect. Tapi what happens now is while our people are still learning about democracy and about exercising their right and still growing economically, the elites are exploiting them. So that's why the relationship kind of doesn't work. It's not that, I mean, on the one hand, in a way, they're keeping the education system so that like there's no awakening, like so that everyone remains ignorant, I guess, to some extent, so that everyone kept distracted with like seeking for jobs or like thinking about other things. There's capitalism, there's consumerism there as well. Just being distracted with things in general. As opposed to having this like responsible elite who knows that their job is to raise their people to be smarter, richer, better nation. It's like the top smartest 1% is keeping everyone else where they are because they don't want us to be better. So it goes back, like for me, the reform is if effectively, I don't think we have effectively a democracy right now. We can vote, but what's happening is not like informed democracy, as you said, like the prerequisites.
We're a illiberal democracy.
If you measure it by the fact that people can vote, I guess we are a democracy. We can say we're a liberal democracy. But what I meant is like we don't have a meaningful democracy where people actually participate and understand, like engage, and in that sense. So we are still kind of an oligarchy. To be fair. So there's like a few elites that as I was describing before, like exploiting and making decisions on their own. So the closest thing, the easier shift, again, not endorsing democracy, we need to get there eventually. But for me, the shift right now is from oligarchy to aristocracy. And what I meant with that is for the elite to realize that they have a responsibility to do the right thing. That's the simplest ask for me. Because going to like fully meaningful democracy means educating the rest of the country, raising everyone to be better critical thinkers, having the economy, like can afford economically to think about other things. And that's a long game. It is the only game that we need to do, but that's like a 10-year, 20-year game. In the meantime, I just need the elite to do better.
Right. And actually, disclaimer, I'm not the elite, right? I'm just the upper class.
Yeah, yes.
Right? I remember my points, middle class and capitalism and rich people. So rich people, I feel like, I'm not sure about this. That's why I'm also part of this as a question. Like I want to ask you, like, I feel like my understanding of politics and the world, but also being somebody who is from the upper class of like Indonesian society, I feel like there's almost this misconception that a lot of rich people have where it's like this kata kasarnya, where it's like, oh yes, all these poor people, I can use them and like it'll make me richer. Like I can use all these, like keep the poor so that I can live a better life for myself, right? Kata kasarnya kayak gitu. And I almost feel like that is perhaps economically wrong. Whereby no matter how rich you are, if you are rich in a dog shit third world like backwater country, like girl, you ain't as fine as you think you are.
Yeah.
You see what I'm trying to say? Right? So it's like it's also in the benefit of us rich people that we also contribute to an economy, a culture, an environment whereby the country, and not just like those of us that are, rich, living in fucking Pondok Indah or whatever, right? But like the entire country to move forward, right? Because, okay, like the one thing is that typically, this is true when people say the rich stays rich and the rich get richer. Like that is true. That is true, right? So it's like, take the richest person in fucking Sudan. I'm sorry, right? Like that's, come on. So it's like, it's in our best interest to like move this country forward and all of us like all move forward, and it's going to be better for us in the long run. Like, and then there's still always going to be like, this is going to sound really horrible, but there's always going to be like relatively poorer people than us that like can like do work for us to make us richer, but like that's also like in their betterment, and it doesn't have to be in like their detriment and like their suffering. Do you see what I'm trying to say?
It's one or the other, right? It's what you said earlier about how this assumption that the poor people at their first chance will try, if they can bankrupt me, then they would, like what you said earlier about what your friend said. That is only possible because in a country where the poor stays poor and the rich gets richer, because like the Gini ratio or like the inequality gets so far out. Whereas if you move together, right? Because let's say there's like this, like the economists usually call it like a pie, right? The economic pie. The idea is either the pie stays the same and you get a big chunk of the pie, and everybody else, meaning like the poor, only get like just a few of the remaining of the pie. And by the way, the richest 1% in this country has 45% of the economic pie. And that's crazy. It's huge inequality. And you can keep it this way, but at the risk of like, you're always insecure, right? You're like a rich person in a poor country, and therefore you're always insecure. You'll have your beautiful houses with like really high fences around it, like, and everywhere you go, the quality would be bad. Versus you enlarge the economic pie together, and maybe you have the same, preferably maybe a little less, so that you can redistribute to everyone else. But overall, that's better for everyone, because now you're in a more secure society. Like everyone is better off. And you probably have enough already, by the way. And it would mean that you're like overall the overall facility infrastructure that you are using is better because as a country you're richer as a country.
Exactly. And also like when the country is richer, like you live in the country. Like you are also benefiting off of living in a richer country with perhaps like more resources, more like I don't know, like a fucking park or some shit like that. Your quality of life is also like contingent upon the country that you're living in. Right? Obviously. Imagine your quality of life, even if you're the richest person in fucking Sudan, what quality of life you're living in fucking Sudan. You know what I'm saying?
So and you pick the sectors. So when we think about it like from a really macro perspective, right? There are economic sectors that are not redistributive, that just makes the 1% richer. I'm talking about mining. I'm talking about like the kinds of work that doesn't really create decent jobs or like a lot of apa sebutnya like labor intensive high quality jobs versus sectors that are actually redistributive in nature and like creating more quality jobs, more middle class, and overall rising us up as a society. And when we're seeing that investment or like the economy is being driven by sectors that are capturing, that are we call it like elite capture, right? You see that the rest of the country are not benefiting from it. So you want to shift the sector that's growing in this country so that it allows for the right kind of jobs, like and decent jobs, well-paying jobs for everyone.
Right. And before it escapes me, I have to make this point really quickly. Rich people. I want to dispel something really quickly. Have you ever heard this narrative that like, oh, rich people don't gotta care about politics because like these issues like they don't touch them and all that type of stuff? You've heard that narrative before, right?
Yeah, of course.
Biggest cap. The part where it doesn't affect rich people as much, like that's true.
Yeah.
But the part where, oh, like they're rich and that's why they don't care about politics, that's false. Rich people care about politics so much they join politics. You know what I'm saying? And because like think of it this way, like rich people usually have businesses, companies, factories, whatever the fuck. Of course they care about politics. It's just more so they don't care about the things that you care about, right? And that's where like dialogue and bridging is so important. I'm telling you, like my friends, I swear their only exposure to politics is whatever shit they hear from their parents. And that's like super fucking call out there, like like and okay, call out different, pardon me, but like just as in to say that's the only perspective that they have access to. You know what I'm saying? So it's like when we bridge that, and like when probably just like explaining it the way that I did just now of like, girl, you'll always have poor people to do the work for you, but it's like they're just gonna be less poor so that they don't have to suffer, and they could probably do more for you. You know what I mean? So it's like the little ways of communicating with like the upper class as well, so that it also just like serves a collective benefit.
Let's assume that amongst this let's say second, third generation rich kids, right? They get access to good information, they know the shit that's going on in this country, and they want to do something. I think that the final step, the final I guess like that gap or that leap that one person needs to take is the most is where most people stops. Like, because like getting information is the first step, but then like caring and taking action, I guess, right, is the next step. And there's always that big either bingung mulainya dari mana atau takut atau whatever it is. It's always that. Don't you feel that? I mean, I think like someone like you, coming from the community that you come from, being surrounded by these people, but you spoke up, like, and the rest of them don't, right? Like, what got you? I guess like this is a question for you, and maybe later a question to me as well. Like, what? How do you have that courage? We talked earlier about the courage to have different opinion or to update your opinion. Another form of courage is like the courage to speak up or like to take action. How do you make that leap? When and why?
This is where culture becomes very important, because the one thing with me, to answer that, is basically because the crass way of putting it, my family's just me and my mom. If shit goes down, I only got to deal with my mom. I don't got to deal with my aunt's opinion, my grandma's opinion, grandpa's opinion, all that type of stuff. And also, like, me and my mom, it kind of is just me and my mom, where it's like, she's not part of an arisan where she cares about the opinions of other people. She's not, we don't go to church, we're Buddhist, but like, we don't go to like a religious community where we care about what they think, and all that type of stuff. And I guess, like, for the most part, like, we've been very lucky to exist in communities whereby, like, I think we're a community, right? We care about one another, take care of one another, but we're also like individuals, and like that's very much that individualism, right? Which it almost feels like every time I talk about individualism, it's seen as like a slur or like a bad word in like Indonesian context. But like, I swear it's like, individualism is also important, right? Because it's acknowledging that like we are acting as individuals and not like as a representation of the community. And because I had that solid support because of like my mom, my family. My mom is my family. It's like that's why like girl, I don't got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I don't got nothing to lose. Like I swear, look me dead in the eye. If I were any other Chindo girl from like the typical Chindo family, I'd dicoretin kartu keluarga. I was never taught that I needed to seek external validation from like the opinions of like the community. Let alone my mother. Like my mother and I disagree all the time. Like girl, I don't fucking care. Like fuck you, mom. Yeah, well not like that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. So I guess like that was like the key for me, and I understand like that is such a privilege, and that is a privilege that money can't buy. So I'm super grateful.
Yeah.
So I'm super grateful. But it's also like honestly, perspective. What I had growing up that I've noticed a lot of other when I talk about my community of like other socioeconomically affluent Chinese, Indonesian, or just like Indonesian kids in general, right? But what I had was the perspective because I went to a school whereby, contrary to popular beliefs, even though GIS is like this like fancy like rich people school, but it's like it's a school of expats, and not the those expats are not like
fancy all the time.
Yeah, no, not even like they're not rich.
Yeah.
Girl, like I went to school with Korean kids that their parents had to really like save up money by not eating meat just to be able to like afford like educational paraphernalia or like resources and like school supply and all that type of shit. The heart of everything is like perspective taking, right? And it's because like I was introduced to that at such a young age, and that's why like even though I like upper class definitely like has a bad rep of like, oh, like they just stay in their own bubble and like they're out of touch with reality, they don't touch grass, which is true to an extent, right? I think I just, and I'm, by the way, I still think I'm very out of touch with reality and I don't touch grass enough. But that being said, like I think I'm better in that area compared to other kids that grew up in similar, especially socioeconomic conditions. And it's really just because I had proximity to people from like as simple as like hanging out with middle class kids, you know. So it's also that. So that's why I'm very passionate about this topic of like bridging dialogues with different people from different walks of life, because it's changed. It's the reason why I'm the way that I am. You know what I'm saying? And but back again to culture, and like that's why it's so important for us to be judging each other on an individual level instead of a community level.
Yeah.
Because I had that, and that's the only reason why I'm able to do like what I do. I do this, right? I mean, and people like there are people that know that like she's so and so's daughter, like they know my mom.
Yeah.
But I get judged as an individual. I really do. I exist in that community.
Yeah.
And it's so clutch.
Yeah. Is it because, I don't know, but like I think the more that I meet people who are, I call them high agency individuals, meaning that they exercise their agency. Are you familiar with the like agency and structure? So in sociology, I guess, like because I took IR, but basically the framework we use to explain how an individual makes a decision is either they're influenced by a structure, which could be like social norms, you know, structure, like community, what the community is saying, what the acceptable, you know, thing to do is, culture and all of that, versus agency, which is your own individual free will, almost to defy structure or to go against the current, and all of this. So Indonesians as a default have very low agency, right? We're very conformist as a society. Of course, it has like deeper philosophical meaning, but I want to oversimplify it into what I just explained. And throughout my life, I've met a few high agency individuals who are people who are not afraid to be different. Sometimes, or like mostly, and just listening to your story as well, because they've always been different in where they are. So they're used to having high agency because they never had to conform in the first place because they're just different. So either you're like an Indonesian in an international school where most people are expats, for example, or all the expats in your school because they're already like coming from a different country, coming into your place. Or in my case, I've been to many different places. I was this. I was kind of I lived in Cianjur, which is like this small kabupaten in West Java near Bandung gitu kan. I was kind of this rich, like I wasn't even rich, but like because I come from Bogor and like middle class, I had more. So I was this like princess who's different. But then after that, I went to Germany because my mom got a scholarship to do her master's, and I was the Indonesian in Germany, and so I was always different wherever I am. So I never had to conform. I don't even have a community to conform to because I'm always an individual.
Yes. Yes.
That's one commonalities. The second one has something to do with how our parents allow us to have different opinions and talk back to them, and that's major. That's huge. My dad, I talk back to my dad all the time. Because he's also usually very strongly opinionated. So those two, I think, like when I find an individual who has high agency, and I think it has when it comes to democracy and like choosing to engage and choosing to take action, it has a lot to do with your ability to exercise your agency.
Yeah.
And so without that, and if you're so used to being to conform to a society or like to just follow the current and all of that, it's very difficult. Like it takes a lot of like a new condition, like a crisis for you to change that pattern, right? To be different. And it's very difficult. In addition to that, I'm a first daughter, and my Instagram like timeline is now filled with so many first daughter stereotypes, which includes basically like solving everybody's problem. Yeah. And I feel like I got into this job, and not even a job, but like what I do now, which is related to whatever public policy and improving democracy and whatever, is because like I just see this as like a huge problem that us as a country is having, and I don't know, I can't look away. Like I just like it's right there in front of me, and I just had to engage, even though at a personal cost, at a big personal cost. And like sometimes people wonder like why are we even doing this? Like I could not easily, maybe that's not, but like I could have just moved and like do something elsewhere in the world, and like just do my job as like a professional instead of doing what I do. I quit a corporate job to do this. And it's basically my high agency. And once you have that agency, it's hard to just, okay, let's just follow the norm. Like it doesn't come naturally. And I wish, or like I hope that my effort in talking to people, writing this book that I wrote, is basically asking or inviting more people to have the courage to exercise their agency, basically.
Yeah, no. I want to make a point about how oh fuck, what was my point? It's because I coughed and then it went away when I coughed.
Oh no.
Oh, my point.
Oh, yeah,
Definitely.
Definitely.
Rich people having empathy and compassion. Yeah, that's my point. Of like, I think inherently, like as somebody from the upper class, I will always be out of touch with reality. Like not touch merakyat.
Merakyat, yeah.
But relative to like my standard, I've done it enough where it's just the awareness of like, oh shit, this is what life is. It feels like Princess Jasmine from Aladdin. Like she came down and she's like, oh fuck, this is Agrabah. That's literally like what I did. No, that's I swear, like I like, God, this is so cringy, but like that's literally like what I did. Like I stepped out of my Alphard and I was like, oh fuck, we don't have sidewalks like we do in Singapore. So shit like really that. Don't. You know what I'm saying? But it's also like rich people having compassion and empathy, right? Part of like why I do what I do is also because, girl, I could, if I didn't want to work a single day for the rest of my life, I could do that. No, I'm being serious. Like I crassly put like pardon my French, but like shit, like my inheritance is fat. I can literally just not work a day in my life. And I do this anyway because I feel this sense of like, not to sound like a pick me girl, but I feel this sense of like I've been given so much privileges in life that I want to give back. Right. And I feel like that's what I was getting at with like rich kids and like the fact that, you know, we have a lot of privilege and like there needs to be an incentive, even though I don't know what my incentive is other than like, I guess, ego. But like there needs to be like this push, this encouragement of like, hey, you're so privileged. Like use that for good. People with privilege, like we hope you step up and like, you know, give back to a community that's raised you.
Yeah. I think like every rich family is different and has a different history. But I'm sure that amongst them exist the kinds of like rich families where, if anything, they think that, first of all, they don't owe the society anything. And if anything, the society did something to their family that they don't want to contribute back. And I'm talking about 1998. I'm talking about many different traumas. And so I just want to acknowledge that, first of all. But also, and like for me, my privileges come from most of the time scholarships, and so even more in my case, it's like direct. Like I owe directly the Indonesian people or the taxpayers for the money that they sent me to my school with.
The word in English berbakti, like a sense of like berbalas budi.
Balas budi. But So that like that sense of berhutang budi, or like having that responsibility is quite strong in that sense. But where was I going with this? But the thing with, so trauma is one thing, and then the next part is capitalism, because you brought it up. I think the thing with capitalism also is not just capital. I think capitalism and individualism on the flip side is that we have reduced our unit of being into nuclear families. Unit of being is not the right word, but we care, like the unit at which we take care of each other is nuclear family. I take care of my nuclear family as opposed to bigger communities, because we used to, the unit used to be our tribes. We used to raise our children, like they say it takes a village to raise the children, because it takes the entire village is one unit, and we help each other in a village. We help like ownership of stuff happens at the village level. Now it happens at nuclear family level, right? Just to put it simply, every house needs to have a ladder. It's very random, but like you need to have your own ladder to fix things in your house. But we used to just like one neighborhood used to just have one ladder in maybe in one house, because everyone borrows everything from each other, and that's how you are a community. And so capitalism is a very isolating, has an isolating drive, because they want you to buy more things for your nuclear family. And by doing so, decreasing your trust in other members of community or need for other members of community, because you are supposed to have self-reliance and buy your own things. And I'm linking this back to the environmentalism part as well as a sub-consequence as well of what it is. But it's a very isolating experience where you go to work to earn your own money. You go back home, spend it on your own, like for your own needs. And when you need help, it feels like you owe the other nuclear family or the other individual something, as opposed to we just take care of each other as a community, right? And that's because of again, like this idea of, okay, I'm not against property ownership. My husband is a libertarian. So it's like, I get property ownership, but I think I get what's good with it as well, and so on. But I think somewhere along the line, we've lost that like degree of community, a communal ship as well, where we take care of each other, sense of community, to put it simply, because we're hoarding our own stuff. Like we have to have everything on our own. And and so politically, so there's this like really great book. It's called, I actually forgot the political wreckage, ship wreckage. Has something to do with wrecks and ship. But basically, it talks about how the current political system and economic system, thanks to individualism, thanks to capitalism, has been an isolating process. So even when you're voting, that's why you're voting based on your self-interest, because you've been cut off from like caring about or like thinking about us as a society unit, like as a community unit. Your unit comes down to individual. And so what the book talks about is like the politics of belonging. How do we bring back communities? How do we go back to a society where we know the pops and moms shop, like you buy coffee from a shop where you know the people in that shop, as opposed to ordering from your online application and literally knowing nobody.
That sounds like such a, I feel like we come from that generation where we hear that and that seems like such an archaic idea.
I know.
Of like,
it's crazy.
No, but you know what's crazy? In Italy, they still do that.
Right.
Oh, and like in like a lot of parts of Africa as well. You know your neighbors. You know their names.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
go to their birthdays.
I don't know my neighbors in my apartment.
Oh, no, me neither.
I don't.
Oh, no, me neither. Me neither. And like, no. I think you make a good point. And like on the topic of capitalism, I read this one research paper about I'm giving you the bastardized SparkSnow summary. Authoritarianism is increasing in a lot of societies all around the world. It's not just Indonesia. We're seeing that in other countries as well. Because of capitalism, the bastardized way of putting it, if I'm not mistaken, and if I am mistaken, I will put it up on screen, the correction. Along the lines of capitalism has caused a lot of economic instability because capitalism is basically like, I think it has to do with how capitalism, it makes the rich richer but the poor poorer. The way that capitalism is currently set. And disclaimer, I'm very much pro-capitalism. I'm very much pro-capitalism, right?
I think we're talking about the specific kind of capitalism that is...
hyper-capitalism.
Yeah.
I'm talking about hyper-capitalism. That's the problem.
Late-stage capitalism.
So it's like late-stage capitalism. Yeah, there you go. So like it's causing a lot of economic instability I think has to do with how the rich are becoming richer, but like the poor are becoming poor, and because the poor are becoming poor, democracy is not working, and so basically the rich are compensating by becoming authoritarian and basically being like, okay, so rich people, like, we're gonna be driving the wheel, right? Because all these poor people are too poor, too stupid to like do democracy. That's the bastardized thing.
Interesting.
Summary of what happened.
Yeah.
I'll put it up on screen. Like, it was super interesting.
Yeah.
Of like how capitalism is actually like. Again, I'm pro-capitalism, but I keep stressing how capitalism also needs to have ethical limits.
I think you're pro free competitive market with property ownership, but I think when we talk about capitalism, when there's no competition, that's not capitalism, which is what's happening right now. As in, like like the core idea of capitalism is like we're supposed to be able to have our own like property ownership is one thing.
Yeah.
But also secondly, the market needs to allow for everyone to come in and like and bring their business and like a free competition, right? Because the idea is out of that competition you'll get the best products. But what's happening in Indonesia is not even is capitalism, but not exercising that like the actual principles, because what's happening is the conglomerates are monopolizing, are like capturing the market that there's because the idea of capitalism is like new money should be able to come in and invest and like grow. Everyone should be able to grow, and the economic pie needs to grow bigger. But I think what's happening here is that it's not capitalism in a sense that it's not free market per se. It's like distorted market where there's monopoly and there's corruption and there's all sorts of problems.
Also, have I been using the wrong term? So I'm not pro-capitalism. I'm pro, what did you say? Free
market
with
and
property ownership.
Property ownership and like liberty, right? Is the point.
Libertarian.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, what is capitalism then? I thought capitalism was like businesses, free market. Capital,
exactly.
Free market, businesses, profit.
Yeah, I guess it's more like it has been shifting, right? I think the maybe like the pure definition was supposed to be like free market, but I think like when people say people say they're like capitalists, like they don't necessarily uphold the values of free market, and that's where like it's it becomes kind of
because I'm against monopolies.
Yeah,
like I think everybody should have the right to like establish like whatever business, make a shit ton of money, and like, but at the same time, see, I keep thinking about this. You know how people are like against like the idea of like billionaires and like.
Are you for? Of course.
Billionaires?
Yeah. Is there a limit of wealth where you think it's unethical to have more than that number?
I'm about to say something. You're about to vomit. I saw like a news article the other day.
Yeah.
Elon Musk by 2027 is on his way to becoming a trillionaire.
There you go. Do you think that's ethical?
No. Because I agree with Jack. I think Jack Ma said this. Once you've hit $1 billion, that's not your money. That's not your money. But at the same time, but if the question is it, can you be an ethical billionaire? That's Taylor Swift, right? Like the question of like, is Taylor Swift an ethical billionaire? Let's not get into that.
That's a different,
But basically, like what I'm trying to say is, obviously somebody from the upper class, like I think people can be rich. I think like in my ideal world of like capitalism performing effectively as it is, but like also democracy performing effectively as it is. Like, everybody needs to have like a baseline, right? Of like where people are not poor, but people have enough. That doesn't mean you're rich. You just have enough. You're well off. You're supported. You are safe. You have key liberties that are provided by the government, right? Like I'm libertarian, and so like my whole thing, your husband and I will agree so much on this, of like government's job is to uphold key liberties. Certain key liberties, like in my view, education, healthcare. Poor people shouldn't die just because they don't have the money that I have in order to be able to afford fucking treatment, right? So it's like baseline. Everybody starts at baseline where everybody lives a dignified, layak life. And then if you want to put in the extra work, I believe so much in meritocracy. You want to put in the extra work, you want to be a billionaire, fucking go for it. But, when you hit $1 billion, I will say the taxes should be. Yeah.
I have one defining question. If two libertarians who believe that like meritocracy and everything.
Yeah.
Inheritance tax.
Oh, fuck me.
Because if you want to argue that it's a meritocratic process of getting richer.
On earning it.
How big of an inheritance tax do you believe? Like, should people? Yeah, because it's. I think that's where this comes down to inheritance. right? Because
Yeah.
if everyone starts over, I'm fine. Like everyone in your lifetime,
Yeah,
you come from zero to like a billionaire. That's
Yeah.
all yours.
Yeah.
But the problem with the system right now is that it's accumulating across generations with very little accountability to the next generation.
Wow.
And you can argue whether they earn it or not. And this is like a question to you.
I'm inheriting a shit ton of money from my mother. So
There you go.
yeah.
Do you think you earned that? Do you deserve that?
Nope. I will be the first to say, I come from a very rich household, socioeconomically, that none of it is mine. Zero. Nilch. I'm about to perhaps shoot myself a little bit in the foot, but you know what? And here's the thing. If this were to come into fruition, it would bite me in the ass because it would apply to me and my inheritance,
exactly.
right? But I stand by how I'm a person of intellectual integrity. Like, you can say what you want about me, I'm a person of intellectual integrity through and through. And so, as a person of intellectual integrity, I will say that logically what makes, I think, the most sense and also what is the most pragmatic system would be if there is a cap on the inheritance. Of, like, basically...
How much would it be?
Now, that one, that's outside of my depth of expertise, I must admit. But I think, put it this way, if I were a billionaire, like a US dollar billionaire, I think by the time, like, or actually, like, maybe put it this way, because Bill Gates, obviously like one of the richest men in the world, I think, if I'm not wrong, he's only going to inherit a certain amount of money to his kids because it's based off of his judgment of, like, in your lifetime, like, this amount of money, let's say like $10 million, like, girl, like, you can have $10 million.
Yeah.
And I need people to understand $10 million is a lot. Please. Like, $10 million is a shit ton of money that one person in your lifetime, like, Miss Girl, you are set. Right? So it's like, I think if I'm not wrong, Bill Gates is the one that's like, you get like, each of them get $10 million. And then the rest of his money that he has worked for, like the Bill and Melinda Foundation has also like worked for, that goes towards the community, the people, the country. I agree with that system.
Okay.
In terms of like the amount, the percentage, I have no idea.
Yeah. So it's like, simply put, like, one generation level of wealth is okay. But if it's like 7 generations, so like 10 million, let's, I mean, the number could be however much, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the
yeah.
idea is you pass it on directly only to your direct, like, first child.
Right.
And then they need to work on it so that
Yeah.
then they decide if their kids can earn it, right? But,
Yeah.
But I think when you have so much inheritance that it goes kayak 7 generasi gitu, that's when the earning part is kind of lost because it's not just, because I think like one philosophical question, and sorry, I was also just exploring the idea. I'm not endorsing any of this.
Yes.
But like the philosophical question is whether the liberty, like as a libertarian, the liberty that you are overstepping is that of the deceased billionaire, because it's his right to give all his wealth
I was gonna say
to
that.
whomever he wants.
Yes.
And that's like his individual personal liberty.
Yes.
Versus the inheritee, like the
inheritor.
offsprings, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, the person inheriting it.
And at one point, does it become unethical again?
Yeah. Now, because I was about to say, I know that my mom, she wants all that money to go to me.
Yeah.
She ain't sharing it with her siblings, with nobody.
Yeah.
She would rather, like, if my mom will never give any of my inheritance money to the government, and she would like vehemently refuse. And also because like that's also a valid point, right? Because what if you are existing in a system whereby it's like, no, government's fucking corrupt. Why would I give them my hard-earned money?
That's the other part. Yeah.
That's the other part.
Yeah.
So you see, that's why like there's a level.
Let's assume the government's working. Like it's an effective, clean, transparent,
but that's subjective.
incorruptible government. Yeah, fair enough.
But that's subjective. Also, you know what else is subjective? Is $10 million enough for one generation?
Yeah, exactly. That's a conversation to have.
Right? Yeah. Okay, people got different definitions of like, I know people, oh God, this is so disgusting. I know people that look at $10 million. Like if you have a net worth of $10 million, they say only $10 million.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to,
Yeah.
it makes me want to fucking throw up.
Yeah,
Because I'm like,
that's how unequal. And it's so crazy, right? Because I think like one statistic says that the richest 60-ish people, 63, 64 people, has the same wealth as the bottom 40% of the whole world.
oh, world.
Yeah. Like 40%, that means like, or 4 billion, I forgot. We need to recheck this statistic. We can put it up later. But yeah, that's like how bad the inequality is. And to what extent, I mean, like I'm not a libertarian. I have a tendency to believe in redistribution and a sense of, I mean, I get it. We all want, again, like property ownership and like you work for yourself and there shouldn't be any limit. But at the same time, I just feel like, what is the point of us existing as a society if you're just bettering yourself at the cost of this huge inequality?
Yep.
So again, like I think the starting point is what you said about everyone has decent starting point,
points.
which we're not there yet. Like we're still far away from there. So when
Yeah.
you see that the richest 60 people has the wealth of the bottom 40%, that's I'm all for redistribution. Like if we've graduated, everyone is middle class, whatever. Maybe I'll be open to the idea of like you can earn however much you want, but that's not
Yeah.
where we are. And
Yeah.
not to mention, so another book I want to bring up here is Donut Economics, right, by Kate Raworth.
I've heard of it.
She's a professor at Oxford, and she's come up with this basically a way to illustrate how she sees economic growth, which is that there's like one inner circle and then outer circle. The inner circle is what she calls as the like pondasi sosial, the social foundation, which is a condition where everyone can afford everything. Everyone can afford food, housing, energy, like electricity, a job, and like a decent wage and everything. So that's like a basic need. So we should be able to, we should grow as an economy, or we should take up from nature. Like we should be able to exploit nature so that everyone has food, because we don't want to starve anyone.
Yeah.
But at the same time, allow it to grow enough only until the planetary boundary. Like what is the planet actually able to replenish it, like at what rate of growth are we allowing the planet to replenish itself? For example, if you take too much fish at too fast of a rate, you don't give it enough time to regenerate. Same with forests, same with like land and everything. So it's not about, so like sometimes people oversimplify the like green SJ, like the environmentalist, as like one like the crazy people, the tree huggers who don't want to cut down any trees. But I really like this very simple philosophy. Like I'm all for taking from nature to fulfill our basic needs, but only until a certain point where like you understand that the planet has a limit.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to billionaires and having limits, for me it's not just the ethical limit of how much is like how much as a number, but also how much can the planet contain, like how much do you need to take from the planet for you to feel enough? Like what is enough if you cannot define?
Interesting, because if you're a billionaire, to make that $1 billion, you're definitely,
what are you taking out away from? And like your private jets or your lifestyle, like if you have that much, you're definitely emitting so much more. Like actually the combination of like maybe again like top richest, however berapa orang terkaya itu could be like equivalent to a whole country or something. I'm sure with their private jets and everything. Taylor Swift, I think, like her emission level is crazy.
Selena Gomez just also joined the list of billionaires recently.
There you go.
Oh, celebrity gossip.
Congratulations,
Selena. But yeah. My political stance, the closest classification is, if you want like a label, like libertarian is the closest, but like, I mean, shit, like, I'm a bit of a socialist when it comes to healthcare specifically. So
yeah,
like,
it sounds like, because you just mentioned earlier, everyone should have education. And that doesn't sound very libertarian or capitalistic to me.
Yeah. So
that
as
sounds
in
like a socialist,
Yeah, but I'm like a socialist when it comes to certain things, but like libertarian and other things. And so it's like, I think like, part of political literacy is also realizing like, don't fit yourself in a box.
Exactly. Like, these labels don't really matter. It's just a simplified way for people to get you quickly, like but at the same time, like when you explore the thoughts, that's when it really matters, right? Like what are the things that you mean when you say that you're a certain label? And when I say that, I guess like this the term capitalism or like as a capitalist have shifted as well, is because of this late stage capitalism, right? Like where we are right now, capitalism as an idea at the beginning versus where it got us now, I guess, right? So when you're I guess you are a capitalist in a sense of like a purist original idea of
like a classic capitalist. Uncle Ben.
But
is that Uncle Ben?
But I think the idea of like stomping over everyone else's rights to like enrich yourself is
fuck no.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no. I love this episode.
Yeah, me too.
Oh my god, this is so good.
Well,
I can't believe I'm sick doing this too. But yeah, no, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my god, this is so fun. I gotta talk about politics with you a lot more off camera.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that is it for this episode, you guys. I know my voice sounds really like, y'all can tell I'm under the weather. You're just gonna have to forgive. But also, I feel like I sound kind of sexy. I don't know. I don't know. A bitch would like to hope. But anyways, be sure to like, comment, fucking subscribe, all that type of shit. This is Afutami. I mean, y'all already know who this is. Bijak Democracy Information down below.
Yeah.
Down below. And remember to vote for gubernatorial. Pilkada.
Pilkada.
Pilkada. Don't forget to vote for Pilkada.
Yes.
All right? Show up. All right. That's it, guys. Bye.